You can't count on Maine being cold in the winter. I mean, anyway, I guess technically Catherine and Chris are the leads of this work group, but I guess I'll just say the general goal of today was kind of thinking of it maybe as like, office hours for the Phonology Forecast Challenge, a chance for those that are participating in the challenge to kind of ask questions and clarifications and kind of go through things that might not have been obvious or clear from what's posted online to make sure that everyone's all on the same page and kind of ready to kind of gear up for the first round of submissions. I was kind of excited to see one of NPN's recent tweets that spring is starting if you go far enough south.
Do folks know how to access our Noaa weather forecasts or have any questions about that? We're downloading Noaa weather forecasts. Since this challenge is looking 35 days in the future, if you want to use it, the midnight UTC forecasts extend 35 days in the future every day. And there's 30 Ensemble members that go out that far. And we also want to make sure everyone knows that the scoring metric we're using combines uncertainty and accuracy. So if you need to, if you don't have any uncertainty expressed, as basically a set of Ensemble members, you can't do it as distribution, or scoring isn't set up right now to do that. But if someone does that, we can. If someone wants to send the statistics of the the parameters of the distribution, basically, or the confidence intervals, we can work with that. But right now, you submit a file and it's like, this date, this Ensemble member has this value, and it uses that to calculate a score. So if you submit a single line and it's not dead on, then you will get penalized pretty heavily in the scoring function. So at minimum, if your model is driven by weather at all, we recommend at least using an ensemble of weather forecasts or something to generate some spread for you.
How do we get those forecasts? I mean, I didn't. Is it already here in the link?
So it's under shared drivers on the website. I can share my screen. Helpful. So so the website NEON Forecasting Challenge, and then you have the kind of the rules for the phonology. You can, so under here, data and training and evaluation. This is, if you click here, this is a link to the kind of processed target. A target is what we're trying to forecast, and so it takes the the phenocam data, gets the region of interest that's described, and takes the 90%, all the things that this group decided on. It's just processed here, so you can download in a single location for all the sites. And then shared forecast drivers, potential things to use. And here's the Noaa Global Ensemble Forecasting System. And if you go there, it's hourly weather forecasts for each NEON site that is kept up in real time. So you can see that it's been, we have it it takes longer for the 35-day forecast to finish up on the machine. So it's already processed the 6 a.m. UTC forecast because that only goes out 16 days in the future. It's still waiting for the completion of the Noaa's model runs to generate the 35-day. And so you go into there, and it's netcdf files that are available, and we provide a tool, just some example code. It's not really, I mean, it's not like a completely documented and vetted tool, but that you can for download, because those are stored as a AWS S3 bucket. They're not you can download individual files, or you can click on it and download it, but to get a bunch of them, we show code on how to kind of download a whole bucket basically, and then how to convert it to a CS from the netcdf to a CSV, if to kind of ease use.
And that API is, one that works with a lot of different languages. So if you prefer, Python or MATLAB or something like that for your coding, you'll be able to find a library for connecting to Amazon S3 buckets. And then you just give it that URL analogous to what the R code is doing. We just happen to have a worked example in R.
Yes. And then you actually submit into another bucket that you can either click on. Let's see, where is it? Electronic submission. You can either just click on the bottom here and click upload file to upload your forecast, or you can use kind of an S3 bucket command to do that. They all get dumped into submissions, and then every day it grabs them out of submissions and moves them into their appropriate theme and scores based on the continuous rank probability score, which for this round we've chosen. And it will, and then our dashboard, it gets automatically run on put through the dashboard. So here is the phonology theme, and here is it shows you the historical data here for Harvard. And then this is the null model forecast for the next 35 days with the 95% forecast interval shown here. And you can kind of view, this is cool because you can view other sites. So your models are going to show up here under select model. So you'll be able to see how you're doing. And so we can go back in time and see how well the Harvard did for one day in the future, 2 days in the future. That's as far as we fixed a bug in the null model that allowed now actually. It used to say it was somewhere between 0 and 1, which is a pretty ineffective forecast. So yeah, so yours will show up here as they come in, and then you can come over here and see the scoring. Where so here's just the big table. We score every day in the future for every model, for every site, using the CRPS score, and then you can choose to aggregate in different ways to see how it's doing. So we can aggregate by let's see, all, and this is all sites, all horizons, all dates, and the null model has got a score of here. And so hopefully your model beats the null, which is just tomorrow is the same as today plus uncertainty that's been generated by fitting that model to historical data and propagating the parameter and additive random normal noise.
I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to beat the null in this area. I'm not so confident for some of the other areas that we'll be doing better than chance. This one, I think we can.
So other things we talked about, the other themes is that there's information here that some folks have missed about where is it? Like how the data are calculated and determined, like the flux or the, but this one is one of the more straightforward themes because it doesn't involve like a massive amount of processing of neon data, like the flux team or I mean like the soil moisture, like how do you decide what depth, what sensor, all that kind of stuff is not, doesn't apply as much to this theme.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Is the system going to supply yesterday's GCC values every day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We have a automated kind of workflow running, and if it goes down, it shows up on Slack. So it's fully automated with error checking right now. So if it goes down because of it breaking on our end, or if the Phenocam servers go down, it won't work. But other than that, it's designed every day. I think it's processed at, I can show you. Let's see, where is it? So let's see, here's our server. And I can come in and look at the cron job, and this one is being run at 6 p.m. every day. Eastern, actually. I have to double check that. I have to double check whether it's, because this is running in Texas, but it may be based off UTC. I would have to double check. The easier way would be to come into the and just see what time of day they're generated. So let's see. Anyway, you'll see what time of day it pops up, your local time.
And one other question. So we're going to be supplied these 35-day forecasts each day going into the future. But we can make forecasts all the way out to the full study period, right? Like if we wanted to on February 1st, we can give forecasts all the way out to July 1st or whatever the end date is.
Yes.
Yeah, we just haven't processed any of the subseasonal to seasonal forecasts ourselves. But if one wanted to do that, or if one wanted to do, a simple climatology forecast that didn't use any covariates, you could totally do the whole season right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. But you may want to redo the season, as more information comes in. Submit
Sure.
it. Yeah. Or you may be satisfied with how you're doing.
Yeah, I just didn't.
Yeah, we'd aspired to get the longer
Okay.
forecasts process, but we just didn't get to it this round. Hopefully by next year's round, we'll have the longer forecasts running as well.
And,
Other folks are running them. We would just have to be processing them.
And you could be skeptical of the quality of those anyway and want to use something else. So
the folks that generate them are sure skeptical of them.
yes. Other means that you would like to do to drive your model is perfectly up to you. The only requirement is that you don't use some like secret data set where you're like magic, you like go to the one tree and look at it, and don't tell anyone else about it. Like as long as it's kind of a data that's available that others could use potentially,
Right.
then.
And I'm sorry, I keep saying I have one more question and then I have one more question. So we need to make sure that all the data that we're using that's being pulled into whatever model we're using is publicly available, but we don't need to make our model publicly available.
Correct. You don't have to make the model publicly available. we encourage folks to, but it's not a requirement of the competition. And I also add that in this particular case, since the phenology data is so close to real time from both the phenocams and the remote sensing, that it's hard to imagine what private data you could collect that would actually help you beyond what you.
Oh yeah, we don't have any. Well, I wasn't going to tell you about my time machine where I can go.
Oh man.
No, we don't have any data. That's why I wanted
Yeah.
to. I wanted to check about the modeling framework.
So as a little bit of context, for example, the aquatics or the terrestrial fluxes, NEON doesn't process the data for, they give it in month-long batches. And it takes 2 weeks to create that batch. So you wouldn't get data describing the month of April until May 15th. And then you forecast May starting mid-May.
Yeah.
So there would be ways to cheat.
Yeah, so there in that case, someone could actually, like, cheat per se, but this group is so real time that this is the group that's really pushing the edges of this sort of like community real time forecasting of environmental ecological data, which is very exciting. Yeah. The other extreme is the ticks, which is forecasting data that NEON has already collected and made publicly available, because their like collection didn't occur in 2020, so they're basically forecasting what they're not sure about their collection ongoing right now, and so they're just playing the game on I think 2019 data, just to they're revealing 2019 data as if it was coming in real time effectively, just so folks can kind of play the forecasting game, but it's not a true, this is as true to ecological forecasting as you can get. So that's why this one's particularly exciting.
Yeah, just curious, maybe I make sure I understand correctly. So we are expected to upload the predictions of GCC rather than the phenological transitioning days. Do I understand correctly? Okay.
Correct.
And that was a decision by the design team. This is ongoing. We plan to run this in future years. So one of the things that could be really exciting is to change the rules and try to forecast events or dates of that kind of thing, rather than just a continuous variable like GCC. But so as you're doing this, think about how you would improve it for the next kind of round as well. If you come up with cool ideas.
And likewise, we have a special issue lined up in MDPI forecasting. And so we can also think about what we want to analyze out of this and what we want to write up when we're done, so that even though the prediction will be, the continuous variable GCC, we could have some forecast skill assessments based on that state variable. We could also, from those continuous predictions, pull out transition dates and ask, maybe the team that did the best on average didn't actually, do the best at nailing key statistics that folks are interested in.
Is there going to be, and have nothing to do with setting up the machinery, that's totally in Naresh's, but is there a way to, get set up and test it all out so we know ahead of time that it's working?
Yeah, I mean, you could set it up and start submitting forecasts ahead of time to see if it works. I mean, all the buckets are open now for both download and upload. The other thing we'll point out is that null forecast exists as a Docker container in the FE GitHub, and essentially provides a template that shows how to run a very simple model and then organize the metadata and the data and submit it automatically. So we've been encouraging teams to look at the null model as a kind of template. In theory, you could take that and stick your own model in the middle of it. and be
Got
up
it.
and running pretty quickly. The only disadvantage of the null model is it doesn't show how to download and process the driver data because it's not using the driver data.
And that's why we provided the other code to do that for you
It has that example. Yeah.
in R, because of founder effects. Yeah, so I'll pull it up real quick, the repository. Let's see, I'll share my screen. All right, so there's a GitHub organization for the Ecological Forecast Initiative, and anything with NEON forecast is related to the challenge. So, here's the shared utilities, which is where some of this stuff, like various functions, show up that you might want to use. And then, each of the themes has it, and that includes phonology, which, so they all have this like sort of a workflow script that kind of orchestrates things, and then within that there's like, it sources the null model here to run it, and then publishes it on the in the bucket. Other questions? Yeah.
So I see February 1st is an important date. It's just kind of, honestly, I don't think I can get the results ready before that date. Well,
And that's fine. I would say get them ready and going as soon as you can. We'll score what comes in. Obviously we want as much coverage across models and across teams and dates as we can get, because the spottier it is, the harder it is to write papers about what we learned. But on the same time, yeah, I mean, if folks aren't ready to submit, then that's not the end of the world. Particularly, a lot of these sites are going to be pretty uninteresting the next couple of weeks. Catherine, what's our farthest southern tower? Off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have looked at it before.
But it's the temper.
Is it the Dila?
I don't know that one.
That's Dead Lake.
It's what?
Dead Lake. Yeah, Dila.
Where's Dead Lake? I don't know that. Is that part of the Talladega cluster, or? Anyway, it was only deciduous, so it's not as far.
It's very south.
But it's not like the Florida ones, because those are all conifer, I think. Anyway, point is there's still plenty of sites that are quite far away from spring. I think you could submit today's observation at Bartlett for the next 2 months and you'd be dead on.
But we're supposed to submit ahead of time.
Yeah, and I'm saying I could submit the next 2 months of forecasts for Bartlett pretty confidently.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
Without seeing
saying.
anything, because I know that spring is not going to happen there till May.
So the null model is going to work pretty well.
Well, except that the null model is going to be probably overly cautious, because the null model is calibrated against the variance that includes the actual green up season.
Mm.
So it's going to inflate faster than it should right now. And then it's probably going to inflate slower than it should during the actual transition.
The other reason why February 1 is an important date to get your first submission is because anything after that has new information from the groundhog. And so we want to have pre and post Groundhog Day forecasts.
Right.
That's why I picked the date, definitely.
Something else to emphasize is just that, this is we're working on this together. This is the first time something like this has really been done, and this is the first round of it. And so, there's going to be, you could think of this as beta and this group as the beta testers. We look forward to refining and improving. And so feedback, questions, any, is welcome. This is not like, there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be issues, and communication is just key. And we don't want folks to think it's some, death match competition that is super intense. Like we want to try to accomplish this together and work out the bugs, and by the end, the RCN, which is a 5-year project, this challenge could just run itself on some levels, as long as the computational machinery is running and something that's there for people and a really refined set of rules and protocols, and could be really neat.
And if it's not clear, we're also planning on having a fall senescence competition too. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully it'll be improved by then from what we've learned from the spring.
So probably harder to get right. Other thing I'll point out, if you're not familiar with it, the Oak Ridge DAC actually has subsets for all the NEON sites for a bunch of remotely sensed variables that are easily accessible. And I think there's a link off of one of our pages that provides a direct link to that. Though it's not hard to just Google the Oak Ridge DAC subset tool. So if you want to, that's all public data. So it's perfectly fine to, use any other remote sensing if you think it'll help you predict GCC. Or you could be very ambitious like Catherine and try to figure out how to process the 5-minute Noaa GOES data.
So we don't have daily forecasts of these temperatures and these variables from Noaa.
We do. Yeah, the Noaa forecasts are updated every 6 hours. For the 16-day forecast is updated every 6 hours. And we're grabbing and subsetting that and downscaling that for the NEON sites. And then the 35-day forecast is updated at midnight, but it takes a little bit longer to process. So that shows up at some point later in the day. But yeah, we're downloading and subsetting and processing this Noaa's Ensemble forecast every day for you guys.
And we've been doing it, so you can use it to build your models. We've been downloading since September, when Noaa switched their forecasting model, which was a headache to adapt the code to the Noaa changing everything.
And are there any tools like data simulation tools or optimization tools provided for us to use? Okay.
I would say that's the sort of thing that's on our wish list, is to sort of work towards building some shared data simulation tools. We don't have anything really that's not already what everyone else has out there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've got all the code for my book if you want to see examples of how to implement
Yeah, I just want to double check.
particle filters and Kalman filters and ensemble Kalman filters. Like,
I just want to check if I can save some time by directly using some existing tools.
hopefully by the end, one of our aspirations is that as this progresses, would love to get to the point where folks can submit Docker containers of their models, and that we can kind of help maintain the automated forecasts centrally without having people even to keep submitting every day. But we don't have the architecture set up yet so that you could submit the container that runs your forecast instead of actually your forecast. But that's something I'd love to get up and running as this progresses. And the hope there would be to be able to provide some data assimilation tools in that framework as well. But yeah.
So, I mean, so in one of the files, I just saw forecast up to February 12. You
Yes.
said they have 25 days
Did-
forecast, right?
Which forecast site? So you have a site?
Yes, I went to just one BART, B-A-R-T, BART, and then
A date, and then did you click on 00, 06, 12, or 18?
say just 06.
Okay, that's
Six.
why. That's why. Only the 00 goes 35 days.
Okay.
That's the midnight forecast.
Okay.
So that's not going to be posted for today, but it would be for yesterday.
It'll be posted
Or-
later today when
Late.
it finishes being run by Noaa.
Right. No, but I'm saying if you're looking at today's link, you're not going to see it, right? You'd have to look at an earlier link.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So like when I look at yesterday's 35-day forecast, it showed up at 1:44 a.m. today. So it took over a day before it actually got fully processed and posted.
I don't know how much we might want to double check that on other ones because their Nomad system, which is how you access it, has been like, I've gotten like probably 4 emails a day from them saying it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's broken, files aren't moving. So I don't know what the usual delivery time is. And we only trigger our code to run once an hour, so it won't update any faster than that. And also I need to double check whether that 1 a.m. is the computer's time, your time, or England's time.
Yep. But by contrast, the 06 one looks like it showed up at about 8 a.m. So it only took 2 hours to process that and make that available. And actually, I don't even know this question. Quinn, are the files organized by ensemble member or by time?
By ensemble member.
Okay, so each file should have a full-time series.
Yeah.
Got it. That's easier to work with.
And the ensemble member 0, I think, only goes out 16 days. So you'll find that when you look at it. So what types of models are folks, broadly thinking about using?
Well, we have a model that, it predicts green up. So it's, if we have the daily temperatures, then we can predict green up. We've been working on that for a while through one of our macro systems grants, trying to tweak it and keep improving it. So we would sort of try to connect, what's going on at the site with sort of more typical green up values.
So that's really good information on a practical level. Knowing what other NSF grants this network is encouraging collaboration among is a useful thing that I'm sure the program officers would enjoy seeing. So if you are, if you're doing this under the auspices of another NSF kind of grant, let us know and we can put that in our report.
It's the macro systems panel, so it'll probably not be too surprising, but yeah, for sure.
Because the point of this project is actually just to coordinate research in ecological forecasting using NEON data, and we chose to have the tool be a forecasting challenge, but the broader objective is this coordination. So this is a great example of coordinating different, people doing research under different projects.
We haven't signed up yet, our team, which obviously we're going to do very soon. But how many teams have signed up for the Phonology Challenge, or do you have a sense of how many people are going to be trying this out?
I have this pulled up right now. I'll just give you the whole scope of things. Right now, we have 2 in the aquatics theme, 14 in the terrestrial team, 1 in the beetles, 3 in ticks, and 7 in phonology. That doesn't include the students from 3 classes that are going to be taught this semester.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So they may choose. I'm teaching a class, Mike's teaching a class, and Carl's teaching a class, and my guess is that students are going to be attracted to the phonology one because it actually looks like you have data you can use to build a model, rather than some of the others that is surprisingly data poor, given that NEON has been running for a decent amount of time now.
I know my students probably will not be submitting till March, though. They're only 2 days in a class, so they're not going to make February 1. They haven't even chosen the project yet.
Yeah, I haven't really. This is my first time really digging into anything today, but my initial thoughts were, I'm doing this on my own, so probably just developing some kind of like time series ARIMA model and seeing if that is pretty functional just based on simplicity. Trying to beat the null forecast.
Yeah, that's great, and that highlights the reason why we also chose a pretty ignorant null, is so that we weren't going ahead and doing this other simple models that folks might think about doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this, I actually work for NEON, so I have like a little insight into this, I guess. But there's so many variables here, but it's having like measured phenology quite a bit in the past. It's I don't know. I was just curious about like how you could build a forecasting model and how accurate that can really be, where forecasting it is just coming up with like a null hypothesis for it is probably pretty accurate, generally speaking, especially with some basic meteorological data and climate data. So I don't know. That's what I figured. I was like, an ARIMA forecast should like, I was like, that should nail it, right?
One of the things that excites me about this challenge is that we're hoping to see a diversity of approaches. I feel like a lot of data science challenges get dominated by kind of machine learning approaches. And by contrast, I think a lot of the model and intercomparison projects that I've participated in across terrestrial ecosystem stuff is really dominated by highly mechanistic process models. And I think here we're going to see a mix. I think we're going to see a real mix from very simple statistical models to more mechanistic models. And it'll be interesting to see what their relative performance actually is.
Yeah, actually, I have been thinking about a little bit more complicated models. Like I was thinking probably a coupled light-weighted ecosystem model that predicts the carbon fluxes and carbon allocation to leaves, and plus a radius transfer model that directly assimilates canopy reflectance, so we can directly calculate GCC. Yeah, so that's still in development. So probably cannot meet the February 1st timeline, but hopefully that can be implemented in March. And I think another colleague, I invited him to this initiative. It's from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. I think we are going to combine our team into just one. He would like to contribute a machine learning based model, I think. So compare
So
this.
if it's separate submissions, they need to be under the separate teams, or it won't score correctly.
Oh, okay.
You can submit multiple models yourself.
Oh, okay.
You know, you as a person can do that as long as you sign up 2 different teams.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it sort of doesn't know how to deal with the naming conventions and sorting things.
Okay.
Yeah, there needs to be a one-to-one mapping between name and model. If anyone was very aspirational and was going to submit a bunch of models, just like send us the list of the names you want rather than going through the form a million times.
Makes sense.
We could just have a process that makes every possible prediction, and we sign up for like 1,000 teams, and then we're sure to win.
It's not about winning, though. It's about the challenge of collectively coming together to ask questions. But
not to me, it's about winning.
You can sort of tell a little bit of our naiveness going into this, because if we were like a forecasting challenge with like predicting NBA basketball scores or whatever, is going to people are going to really game it hard. And so you have to really be prepared for, folks to like do things like you just said. And we're
there's money on the line there because people bet on that.
Yes.
And I don't think people bet on phonology that often.
No, I'm accepting PayPal donations to fudge the PhenoCam data for you.
Excellent.
Got my
I bet we can get folks to bet on phonology. People bet on the most.
You can get people to bet on anything.
Yeah, you could also get people probably to say that there's a 10% chance of green up occurring in July. Just like the betting markets for the presidential election were still had favorability in one direction even after like the inauguration day.
Well, there are people out there still holding out hope.
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Thoughts?
If you haven't joined the Slack channel, that's a really good place to put questions, and as you go along and see where things could be improved, that would be a great place to put it. And Leslie, when you and Naresh sign up, there'll be an email that has the link for joining the Slack.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming. Hopefully this was a useful exercise to kind of get feedback and clarification.
Super useful. Thank you.
Yeah, the Slack channel is open to everybody, in this theme, and so that's one way to post a question. You can just email, you could email just the Ecological Forecasting Initiative email address, and Jody will sort it, send it where it needs to go. But if you have a question, I'm sure others do. So we'll try to put it on. Slack is a preferred, but if folks aren't into that thing, then we'll make do.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for everyone working on their cool models and submitting them. That's more important.
Let's see everyone.
Yeah, the site's looking awesome, Quinn.
Hi,
See ya.